Hollywood sold glamour, romance, and perfect smiles, but behind closed doors, some stars built reputations for affairs, obsession, and scandalous private lives. Which legends crossed the line between desire and destruction? Watch to the end for the most shocking name and subscribe to Hollywood Legends Remembered. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe spent much of her adult life being watched, judged, and misunderstood. To audiences, she was the blonde star with the soft voice, the bright smile, and the kind of screen presence Hollywood knew how to sell. But Norma Jean, the woman behind that name, was living under a level of attention that few people around her seemed willing to understand. Her marriages became part of the public story. James Dougherty belonged to her life before real fame. Joe DiMaggio came after she had become a national obsession, and their marriage quickly showed how hard it was for Marilyn to belong to anyone privately. He wanted a wife. The public wanted a fantasy. Hollywood wanted a product. Those pressures did not leave much room for peace. Her marriage to Arthur Miller showed a different side of her. Marilyn wanted to be taken seriously, to be seen as intelligent, and to work beyond the dumb blonde image that made the studios money. The rumors about President John F. Kennedy remain some of the most repeated stories about her. Her Happy Birthday, Mr. President performance in 1962 made those rumors even harder to separate from her image. But much of that story still lives in speculation, not proof. What is clear is that powerful men were often protected more than she was. Did Marilyn create the scandal, or did people around her turn her loneliness into one? That question is important because Marilyn is still too often reduced to desire affairs and tragedy. She had problems. She made mistakes. But she was also under constant pressure from studios, photographers, gossip writers, and men who wanted something from her. Marilyn Monroe died in 1962 at only 36 years old. Her love life still draws attention, but it should not be the only thing people remember. She was funny, ambitious, insecure, talented, and far more serious than the image allowed her to be. Behind the headlines was a woman trying to be loved without being used. Vivien Leigh. In 1939, Vivien Leigh became one of the most famous women in the world because of Gone with the Wind. Her performance as Scarlett O'Hara made her a star almost overnight, but the attention around her did not stop with the movie. People wanted to know who she loved, who she fought for, and whether the passion on screen matched the woman in real life. Her relationship with Laurence Olivier became one of the biggest love stories in British and Hollywood gossip. When they fell in love, both were already married to other people. That made the affair difficult from the beginning. It was not just a private romance. It became a public scandal followed by newspapers, theater circles, film studios, and fans who wanted every detail. They eventually married in 1940, but the marriage was never simple. Leigh and Olivier were both talented, proud, and under constant pressure. Their life together included major success, jealousy, long separations, and emotional strain. Leigh won another Academy Award for A Streetcar Named Desire, but behind the praise, her health was becoming harder to manage. She struggled with serious mental health problems and also suffered from tuberculosis, which weakened her body for years. Was Vivien Leigh's love life really the scandal? Or was the greater tragedy that people watched her pain like entertainment? That question gives her story more weight. The public liked the idea of Vivien and Olivier as a grand romantic pair, but real life was much harder than the image. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1960. By then, both had changed, and the relationship that once looked glamorous had left deep wounds. Vivien Leigh died in 1967 at only 53 years old. Her name is still tied to beauty talent and romantic scandal, but that is not enough. She was a serious actress, a woman under pressure, and someone whose private struggles were often turned into public drama. Louise Brooks. The black bob made Louise Brooks easy to recognize, but the real problem for Hollywood was her refusal to behave the way studios wanted. She had the face of a silent film star, but she did not seem interested in playing the obedient young woman off-screen. By the late 1920s, she had become one of the most striking actresses of her time, especially through films like Pandora's Box and Diary of a Lost Girl. Brooks' private life became part of her image almost as much as her acting. She married director Eddie Sutherland, but the marriage did not last. Around her name came stories of affairs, parties, drinking, and relationships that did not fit the clean public image Hollywood preferred. Some accounts also discuss her attraction to both men and women, including long-standing rumors about women in the film world. With Brooks, though, the important point is not to turn every rumor into fact. The truth is already strong enough. She lived more freely than the industry was comfortable admitting. Was Louise Brooks truly scandalous, or was she simply less willing to pretend than everyone else? That question follows her because Hollywood often punished women who did not protect the fantasy. Brooks had talent, beauty, and intelligence, but she also had a sharp tongue and little patience for studio control. When she refused certain demands and walked away from parts of the business, her career suffered. The same independence that made her fascinating also made her risky to the people who wanted actresses to be easy to manage. Her fame faded while she was still young. Later, she struggled financially and lived far from the glamorous image attached to her name. But unlike many stars who disappeared completely, Brooks found a second life through film historians and readers who rediscovered her work and her writing. Louise Brooks died in 1985 at 78 years old. The gossip still follows her, but it should not be the whole story. She was not just a reckless beauty from silent Hollywood. She was a woman who saw the machinery around her clearly and refused to spend her whole life pretending it was kind. Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez was one of the most prominent actresses of early Hollywood. With her strong personality, captivating beauty, and explosive energy on screen, she quickly captured the attention of audiences. Velez's roles often portrayed bold, confident, and vibrant women, making her one of the most famous Latina stars of her time. Beyond the screen, her private life was also frequently the subject of discussion. The relationship between Lupe Velez and Gary Cooper was often mentioned in behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories. According to many contemporary sources, this romance went through many ups and downs with intense emotions, jealousy, and arguments. However, like many classic Hollywood anecdotes, not every story passed down can be confirmed as true. What is clearest is that Lupe Velez often faced intense scrutiny from the public and the media. While famous male actors are often overlooked or forgiven for romantic scandals, women involved in similar stories are more likely to face harsh judgment. Velez is a prime example of this disparity in how Hollywood treats male and female stars. Was Lupe Velez unfairly judged simply because she was a woman in a male-dominated industry? This is a question that remains relevant when looking back at Hollywood history. Many talented female stars have had to bear the prejudices that their male counterparts rarely face. Stories of their private lives sometimes overshadow their artistic achievements. Lupe Velez died in 1944 at the age of 36. Her legacy lies not only in the films she starred in, but also in her pioneering role as a Latina actress in American cinema. Her life serves as a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, there are always pressures and unfair standards for female stars. Diana Dors. Diana Dors understood early that fame in Britain did not come only from acting. It also came from image headlines and the way newspapers could turn a young woman into a national obsession. Born Diana Mary Fluck, she changed her name and built a screen personality that was glamorous, bold, and hard to ignore. By the 1950s, she was one of Britain's most talked-about actresses. The press often focused on her looks more than her talent. That was unfair because Dors could act. In Yield to the Night, she gave a serious performance that showed much more depth than the blonde bombshell label allowed. But the public image was already powerful. She was written about as a woman of parties, lovers, expensive clothes, and trouble. Her marriages, especially to Dennis Hamilton and later Alan Lake, kept her private life close to the gossip pages. Stories about her parties at Orchard Manor became part of her legend. Some accounts described wild gatherings, hidden cameras, and guests from the entertainment world. Those stories should be handled carefully because scandal grows easily with time. But it is clear that Dors lived in a way that gave the press plenty to use. Was Diana Dors truly as wild as the headlines said? Or did the headlines need her to be that way? That question matters because her image became a trap. The more people talked about scandal, the less they talked about her work. She was not always helped by her own choices, but she was also judged in a way male stars rarely were. Diana Dors died in 1984 at only 52 years old. Her life had glamour pain and public mistakes, but it should not be reduced to gossip. She was a talented actress who became famous in a world that often preferred the scandal to the woman. Jayne Mansfield. In the 1950s, publicity could make an actress famous almost as quickly as a good role, and Jayne Mansfield learned how to use it. She understood cameras, headlines, and the power of being noticed. Hollywood promoted her as a blonde bombshell, and she played that image with confidence. Films like The Girl Can't Help It and Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter made her a familiar name, even when critics treated her more like a spectacle than an actress. Mansfield's private life became part of the show. Her marriages, public appearances, staged photo moments, and rumored affairs gave newspapers plenty to print. She was often compared to Marilyn Monroe, but Jayne's style was louder and more openly theatrical. She leaned into publicity because it kept her working, but that also meant people stopped looking for anything deeper. There was more to her than the image suggested. Mansfield was intelligent, studied music, played violin and piano, and understood very well how fame worked. But once Hollywood labels a woman as a fantasy, it becomes hard for her to be taken seriously. Her name became tied to glamour parties and gossip, while her actual ambition was often ignored. Was Jayne Mansfield controlling the publicity, or was the publicity slowly controlling her? That question follows her life, because the attention that helped make her famous also boxed her in. As the 1960s changed Hollywood, her major film opportunities became fewer. She kept performing, appearing in nightclubs and lower-budget projects while still trying to support her children and hold on to public interest. Her connection to Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan added another strange layer to her legend. But many stories around that period were exaggerated. The truth is already sad enough. In 1967, Jayne Mansfield died in a car crash at only 34 years old. Her life was not just a collection of scandals and photographs. It was the story of a woman who knew how to attract attention, but never fully escaped the cost of being treated as a headline. Lana Turner. Lana Turner's career began with a label she never fully escaped: the sweater girl. MGM quickly understood that her beauty could sell tickets, and early publicity turned her body into part of the product. But Turner was not just a studio photograph. She became a serious star with strong work in The Postman Always Rings Twice, Peyton Place, and Imitation of Life. Her private life, however, kept pulling attention away from the acting. Turner married 8 times to 7 men, and every marriage seemed to give the press another reason to follow her. Some relationships were short. Some were painful. Some became public before she had time to recover from them privately. In old Hollywood, a woman's romantic life could become part of her brand, whether she wanted it or not. The darkest chapter came in 1958, when her daughter Cheryl Crane stabbed Turner's boyfriend Johnny Stompanato during a violent confrontation at Turner's home. Stompanato had ties to organized crime, and the case exploded in the newspapers. Cheryl said she was protecting her mother. The death was later ruled justifiable homicide, but the trial and the publicity placed Turner's family pain in front of the whole country. Was Lana Turner judged for her choices or for surviving scandals that other stars might not have survived? That question matters because Turner carried a kind of public shame that male stars often escaped. Her beauty made her famous, but it also made people quick to blame her when things went wrong. The press turned her marriages, fears, and mistakes into entertainment. Lana Turner kept working after the Stompanato scandal, which says something about her strength. She died in 1995 at 74 years old. Her life was filled with glamour, but also pressure, danger, and private wounds that were never allowed to stay private for long. Ingrid Bergman. For years, American audiences saw Ingrid Bergman as the kind of star they could trust. She was not sold as dangerous or wild. In films like Casablanca, Gaslight, and Notorious, she seemed intelligent, serious, and emotionally honest. That clean image helped make her one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, but it also created a problem. The public expected her real life to match the women she played on screen. The scandal came when Bergman went to Italy to work with director Roberto Rossellini on Stromboli. At the time, she was still married to Dr. Petter Lindström, and they had a daughter, Pia. Bergman and Rossellini fell in love, and when she became pregnant before her divorce was final, the reaction in America was severe. Newspapers attacked her. Some audiences turned against her. A private relationship became a national moral argument. Was Ingrid Bergman punished for the affair, or for breaking the image people had built around her? That question matters because Hollywood had always been full of affairs. The difference was that Bergman's image had been built on purity and respectability. When she stepped outside that role, the backlash was brutal. Men in the industry often survived scandals with less damage. Bergman was treated as if she had betrayed the public personally. Her career in America suffered for several years, but she did not disappear. She continued working in Europe and later returned to Hollywood success. Her comeback with Anastasia proved that the talent had never gone away. The scandal had changed how people talked about her, but it did not erase what she could do as an actress. Ingrid Bergman died in 1982 at 67 years old. Her story is not simply about adultery or disgrace. It is about a woman who made a private choice in a public world that allowed very little forgiveness when a beloved female star stopped behaving like an ideal. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor grew up in front of the public, and that made her private life almost impossible to protect. She was a child star in National Velvet, then became one of the most photographed women in the world. By the time she was an adult, audiences were not only watching her films, they were watching her marriages, her jewelry, her arguments, and every man who stood beside her. Taylor was married 8 times to 7 men, and that fact followed her for the rest of her life. Her marriage to Eddie Fisher caused a major public backlash because Fisher had been married to Debbie Reynolds, one of America's most beloved stars. The press turned Taylor into the villain, and many people treated the affair like a national betrayal. She did not hide from it, but the judgment was harsh. Then came Richard Burton. Their relationship began during the making of Cleopatra while both were still married. The scandal was enormous. Newspapers followed them everywhere, and their love became public entertainment. They married, divorced, remarried, and divorced again. Their bond was real, but it was also loud, painful, and surrounded by money, fame, drinking, and constant attention. How much of the outrage was really about love, and how much was about a woman refusing to be ashamed in public? That question matters because Taylor was judged in ways many male stars were not. Her choices hurt people, and she was not innocent in every story. But the punishment placed on her image was extreme. The public enjoyed watching the drama, then blamed her for giving them something to watch. Elizabeth Taylor died in 2011 at 79 years old. Her love life remains famous, but it should not be the whole memory. She was an Oscar-winning actress, a survivor of serious illness, and later one of the first major stars to speak loudly for people with AIDS when many others stayed silent. Clara Bow. The nickname It Girl followed Clara Bow everywhere, but it never explained the whole woman. She became famous in the silent era with a kind of energy that felt new at the time. In It and Wings, she looked natural, lively, and modern in a way audiences understood immediately. She did not seem distant like some stars. She seemed close to the crowd, almost like someone fame had grabbed by surprise. Her love life quickly became part of her public image. Bow was linked to several well-known men, including Gary Cooper, Victor Fleming, and Gilbert Rowland. Some relationships were real. Some stories were stretched by gossip writers who knew her name sold papers. Hollywood liked her sex appeal when it made money, but the same image was used against her when the rumors became too loud. The worst damage came when private problems turned into public scandal. Her former secretary, Daisy DeVoe, became involved in a court case that exposed pieces of Bow's personal life to the press. Newspapers used the trial to print humiliating stories, and some rumors around Bow became cruel and exaggerated. For someone already under pressure from fame, money worries, and studio demands, the attention was brutal. Was Clara Bow truly reckless, or was she punished for being too alive in a business that wanted control? That question matters because Bow was not just a party girl from old headlines. She was a major silent film star who helped define a new kind of screen woman. But the industry that made her famous also helped wear her down. The arrival of sound public ridicule and emotional strain pushed her further from Hollywood. Clara Bow married actor Rex Bell and eventually left the spotlight. She died in 1965 at 60 years old. Her scandals still get attention, but her real legacy is larger. She was one of the first stars to show how exciting and how dangerous modern fame could be. Ava Gardner. Frank Sinatra became the name most often attached to Ava Gardner, but her story did not begin with him. She came from North Carolina, was discovered almost by chance, and became one of MGM's most striking stars. In films like The Killers, Mogambo, The Barefoot Contessa, and The Night of the Iguana, she carried a natural confidence that did not feel manufactured. She looked glamorous, but there was also something tired, honest, and guarded in her screen presence. Her love life became a major part of her public image. Gardner married Mickey Rooney when she was still very young, and the marriage ended quickly. Rooney later admitted he had not been faithful. Her second marriage to bandleader Artie Shaw was also difficult. Shaw was intelligent and demanding, and Gardner later felt he looked down on her. Those early marriages helped shape the public idea of Ava as beautiful, desirable, and unlucky in love. Then came Frank Sinatra. Their relationship was passionate, public, and often painful. Sinatra was already famous, already married, and deeply drawn to her. Their affair and marriage caused headlines, arguments, and damage on all sides. They loved each other, but love was not enough to make the relationship peaceful. There were fights, separations, drinking, jealousy, and too much attention from the press. Was Ava Gardner reckless, or was she simply honest about wanting love on her own terms? That question matters because she was often judged for the same behavior that made male stars look exciting. Ava did make mistakes, and some choices hurt people. But she was not a cartoon of scandal. She was a woman trying to live freely in a business that enjoyed her beauty while criticizing her independence. Ava Gardner died in 1990 at 67 years old. The gossip remains, but so does the work. Her best performances show a woman with depth, sadness, humor, and strength beneath the legend. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford learned early that Hollywood rewarded control, and she spent much of her career trying to keep it. She came up through MGM in the silent era, worked hard on her. Dancing her image and her discipline then survived the difficult move into sound. Later, when many thought her best years were behind her, she won an Academy Award for Mildred Pierce and proved she could still command the screen. Her private life was watched almost as closely as her career. Crawford married 4 times, including to Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Franchotone Philip Terry, and Alfred Steele. Each marriage became part of the public story around her, but the press was even more interested in the rumors, affairs, and power struggles that followed her name. In old Hollywood, Crawford was often described as ambitious in a way that sounded almost like an accusation. Stories about her relationships with both men and women have followed her for decades. Some are based on Hollywood gossip, and some are hard to prove. They should be handled carefully because the real story does not need cheap exaggeration. Crawford lived in a business where image was everything, and any private relationship that threatened that image could become dangerous. Was Joan Crawford truly scandalous? Or was she punished for wanting power as openly as men did? That question matters because Crawford was judged not only for who she loved, but for how badly she wanted to survive. She could be charming, harsh, generous, controlling, and difficult. Later, Mommy Dearest shaped a darker public memory of her, especially around her relationship with her adopted daughter, Christina. Joan Crawford died in 1977 at 73 years old. Her life should not be reduced to gossip marriages or one damaging portrait. She was a major star who fought for her place in an industry that respected ambition in men but often feared it in women.